All right, good morning and welcome. My name is Nick Rambo, and I am a recruiter here with the Krannert School of Management at Purdue University. And we're thrilled to be able to bring you this webinar this morning about the Purdue admissions process. And I'm thrilled to be joined today by a couple of special guests. We have Shaloy Mason, who's an interview coordinator here at Krannert, and Amy Hamilton. So I'm going to give them an opportunity now to introduce themselves. So, Shaloy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do here at Purdue?
Thanks, Nick. So I've been with the Krannert School of Management for a little bit over 10 years. I've worked in the admissions office for this time. Basically what I do is help to process the applications. We talk to prospective applicants for those that are visiting campus as well as those that are communicating with us over the phone or through email. And we enjoy being able to help them with the admissions process. I also oversee the campus visit process as well, and have the opportunity to meet prospective students when they come to campus.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Amy, why don't you tell us a little about what you do here at Purdue?
Well, I've been in the master's office for about 8 years. I handle basically anything admissions related, processing applications, talking to students, making sure everybody has their documents. I process all admissions decisions, scholarship information, just anything you can think of admissions related.
Excellent. Well, as I'm sure you can tell by now, I've brought the experts with me today. So today's webinar will be more of like a podcast-style chat. So we'll kind of go through some information, and then at the end there will be a time for questions. But first, let's go ahead and give you a review of what we'll talk about today. We're going to start off with a little conversation about why you might want to choose Krannert for your graduate education. So we're going to get into the conversation for today. We're going to talk about the Purdue application process, give you an overview of that. We'll talk about when you should submit your application and when you shouldn't. We'll talk about some specific issues that are sensitive for international and domestic applicants. We'll talk a little bit about the cure videos that we're doing this year, and then give you kind of an overview on the review process. I'm going to open it up for time at the end for questions. So we'll kick right off here, and we'll talk about why you might want to choose Krannert. Obviously, there are lots of reasons that other people have found for why this is such a great educational institution. Everyone from the Wall Street Journal to U.S. News and World Report to the Department of Homeland Security. We've received a lot of accolades, and we're very proud of many of the things that we're able to do here. Another fun one that isn't on this list, we actually, BuzzFeed a while back gave us the #1 college bar. Absolutely, the #1 college bar, which is right next door to Rawls Hall here. So that's another exciting accolade that we've received.
Landmark.
Absolutely, it is a landmark in the community and at Purdue. So there's the Heritage Travel Shop. So we'll continue on and talk about why you want to choose Krannert, and ultimately we're going to help you take that next step. Whether you're trying to advance your career or maybe change careers, develop a specialized skill set, earn more money, or just expand your network, the Krannert MBA program is going to help you accelerate that by emphasizing leadership, professional development, collaboration, and innovation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but some of the features of our flagship MBA program and our specialized master's degrees are really that focus on quantitative and analytical skills. That's a big part of what we do here, and hopefully we're going to prepare you to go out into the world and be very successful. Also, we have specialized concentration areas, everything from global supply chain management to accounting and finance to business analytics, operations. There are a lot of things we do really well here. And so through the MBA program, you're really able to specialize and, in a way, customize your experience in a way that really suits your career goals, your personalities, and your skill set. We also have a variety of experiential learning opportunities and are launching Global Leaders Curriculum, which is really going to help people understand, as they go out into the world, how can they be a leader, personally and professionally. Also, we understand that an MBA or master's degree is a lot of money. It's very expensive, but we really want to help you get the most out of that by helping you further your career with our KPDC, our Krannert Professional Development Center. I actually met with them yesterday for kind of a deep dive into what they're doing, and from connecting people with alumni to doing those review workshops for interviewing skills, resumes. We offer a lot of great value to our KPDC here. We also have collaborative opportunities. I mentioned that on the last slide. The Purdue Foundry is one of my favorite things on campus. I don't know if the two of you have had an opportunity to get down there. But they're doing some really innovative things there and really helping people who have that entrepreneurial spirit really go step by step through the process of launching a new idea, a new product, a new business venture. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. We also have the research part and discovery part. And it's real, Purdue University, I think, is really becoming and has become in a way a real hotbed for innovation. So, and for those of you who have that real entrepreneurial spirit, this is going to be a great place for you. And additionally, we do have that global network of more than 450,000 alumni all around the globe. So when it comes to finding Boilermakers, it's not hard. So that's something I like to say. So at this point, that's sort of the overview. If you have more questions about specific programs, you can reach out to us at the end, either via email or whatever. You can also kind of address that in the chat, and we'll kind of go on from here. So it's at this point that we're going to really get into the meat of the conversation, which is all about the Purdue application process. As I said earlier, Amy Chaloy are great values. They have a lot of experience. So hopefully we're going to be able to kind of glean some of that out today. So the first thing we're getting into is just kind of an overview on the Purdue application itself. So, Chaloy, I'm wondering if you can kind of dive into that. And I know that we have a fairly standard application process, but kind of talk through what the various components are that are needed for that application.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So the entire application process is completed online. You would go to our website and click on the application link, create a PIN and a password, log into the application. What is required are 2 letters of recommendation. So you would register your recommenders and they would receive a request to complete the recommendation for you online. And then you would also upload into your application scanned copies of your official transcripts as well as provide test scores. The GMAT is preferred. The GRE can be considered if you've already taken that exam, as long as they're valid tests and fall within the 5-year period. And then also for those that are applying that are international applicants, we require a language assessment test.
Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about what kind of tests we are open to later. But let's kind of step back to the test scores for a minute. You mentioned that we prefer the GMAT, but also accept GRE. But a question I get a lot from different people I talk to and students are questions about, what if I want to retest? I want to start my application, I want to submit it, but I think I can do better on the GMAT. So talk. Maybe Amy, you do best here. Why don't you talk through that process a little bit about those people who, maybe have taken the GMAT and maybe want to take it again?
Well, it's really at this point best that you wait. If you know ahead of time that you're going to retest, we request that you wait until you have your new updated scores, because basically your application is not going to move forward. We're going to hold it anyway, and there's not an option for the applicants to go back in and update those test scores in their application after they've submitted. So we would prefer for you to just wait. There'll be time. Our final international deadline is March 1st, and we'll talk about that, I think, later. But also, if you know ahead of time, we just want you to put the best application, forward.
Yeah.
So,
most competitive application.
Yeah, absolutely. The Purdue programs are very competitive. We have a lot of applications. So that's something I usually tell people is, we want the best version of the application, not necessarily the quickest. Now,
that's right.
There are advantages to submitting it early. We have more spaces open within the program. We have more financial cash awards at that point that we can designate for those people within the MBA program. We have more graduate assistantships.
Right.
So there are advantages, but certainly due to the competitive nature of the program, we want the best version of the application.
And if you already know that you are going to retest again,
when
in doubt, send us an email, give us a phone call, and discuss it with one of us. We'd be happy to help you in that regard if you're in question.
Sure. Now let's just discuss this. You had said that they're going to have scanned uploads of their transcripts and their test scores. But I know that you have to submit that to GMAT at the time that you take it. Now, are those things that people are able to submit themselves, or is that more of an official process?
So actually, we would request that you have your scores reported from GMAT to Purdue University. And then for the TOEFL, the test scores should be submitted to institution code 1631. For those that take the IELTS, we would also ask that you would scan and upload a copy of the actual official test into your online application.
But yes, you need to, at the time of taking, or at the time of application, you need to request for those official reports to be sent
Right.
at that time.
Because sometimes we'll get like those screenshots of people taking their cell phones. Here's my GMAT score.
It can be reviewed on self-reported.
Right.
You can move forward as long as you have everything else for your application on self-reported test scores. However, you'll go through the process, but to receive a favorable admissions decision, we can't do that until we have the official report sent from the testing center. So in order to save yourself some time, it's best to just do it ahead of time at the time of your application.
Now, obviously, as our admission season ramps up here, more people are taking the GMAT, and that may be a hang-up for their application. Do you guys have any recommendations on ways that they can maybe spur that process along, or is it just you just have to wait?
They can actually complete the entire application and just wait to submit it until they actually have the official scores. And they can self-report those scores on their application, but we can, as Amy had mentioned, that we can review an application with self-reported test scores, and then just wait to submit until everything else is provided.
Excellent. Okay. Great. Well, we talked a lot about the application, and obviously, we want to talk about the best time to submit your application. We've talked about this, so I think Amy, you had mentioned some of our deadlines. So when it comes to international applicants, they have up until March 1st to submit their application. Domestic applicants have up until April 1st.
May 1st.
May 1st, gotcha, okay.
For most of the programs.
Gotcha.
It's easier to get domestic process through because there aren't visa issues. And actually, some programs will take up until classes are full.
Absolutely. And some of those classes do fill up quickly, I understand. Yes. So making sure that you have those in, I wouldn't, what I'm trying to say here is I wouldn't wait until the day of.
Please do not do that.
Absolutely.
Again, when in doubt, feel free to just contact us and have it else.
Excellent. Now let's talk a little bit about the process of, of people who submit their applications too early. Because I know that you guys do quite a bit of your day-to-day seems to be reaching out to people and saying, hey, we don't have your transcript, we don't have your, whatever. So kind of dig into that a little bit and talk about, the most common mistakes you see made during the application process, things that are missing.
I think one of the things that is probably missed the most is applicants that apply from India are requested to provide scanned copies of their official diploma or degree certificate, and those also must be uploaded into the application. And then also applicants from China, we would also need both in the original language and the English translation of scanned copies of the diploma degree certificate uploaded into the online application as well.
Okay. Excellent.
When in doubt, just have it in there.
Gotcha. It's really funny. So we talked a little bit as we met before about sort of the structure of the submission process. Because oftentimes people will submit and they think they're done, but they're not. So why don't we dig into that a little bit and talk about the actual process?
So there are three things that are actually required to be able for us to receive your application. An applicant must click submit, of course, after they've provided all the required documents within the online application and pay the application fee. But then once that application is submitted, the application fee is provided, there's also what we call a Kira video response that is required.
And we'll get into that a little bit later about what those are.
So those are the things.
And you will not get your application until both of your two online recommenders have submitted. So that can hold up your application. Yeah. Typically what I tell applicants, give your recommenders a heads up that you are submitting their information. The minute you put it in their application and enter that, your recommender will receive an email right then. So it is a misconception that you think that, okay, I've submitted, I paid my fee, now Krannert has my application. And that's really not true. So your recommenders can hold that up. So once we get 2 letters of recommendation, we get your application.
If you want to stay on top of that,
typically I just
check their spam filters, their junk mail. just to make sure they're getting that initial, that invitation to say, hey, person X is inviting you to write a recommendation.
Exactly. Just kind of remind them, feel free to push them a little bit. You can see that in your application too if you're still waiting on a recommender. But that's a big misconception that you think you've submitted, I'm all ready, they're working on the application, and that's not necessarily true.
Excellent. Well, let's move forward from that a little bit. So let's say someone has submitted, they've paid, the recommenders have done, and now they're sort of waiting. Let's talk about interview requests, because that's something that we get some emails on. Hey, I submitted my application, everything's done a week ago, and I haven't received anything back to you guys. So let's talk about interview requests.
Interviews are actually requested by the admissions committee. It is per admissions committee request. So we will be contacting the applicant if the admissions committee desires to speak with an applicant. You would receive an email that would notify you as to whether it would be a Skype or in-person interview, and the instructions are within that email that would be received.
So what we're saying essentially is that you're not guaranteed an interview.
Correct.
For some students who may not necessarily make the cut, so to speak, we don't guarantee that everyone's going to be interviewed.
That is correct.
Gotcha. Okay. Just want to make sure we covered that. So our next step here is to talk a little bit about some of those international issues. Shula, you mentioned those, I think both of them actually just a moment ago, talking about those diploma degree certificates.
Yes.
And the different language tests. So let's talk about the degree certificates just quickly one more time. You had mentioned that there were specific issues for applicants from India and China.
Yes, along with the mark sheets or a transcript, a scanned copy of the official diploma degree certificate should be scanned and uploaded into the online application as well. And for applicants from China, also scanned copies in the original language and English translation that are official certified documents. They also must be scanned and uploaded into the online application, both the degree certificate and diploma.
Excellent. And you also mentioned some of those language tests. So I think the most popular test out there is probably the TOEFL test. Now, we don't have a lot of requirements here at Krannert. We require that people who are applying having a degree, 4-year or accredited 4-year equivalent. And we require that they have a GMAT score or a GRE. We also require for those non-native English speakers that are international applicants those language tests. So with the TOEFL score specifically, we do require a score of 93. And that's another thing. People will often ask, well, what's your GMAT requirements? What's your GPA cutoff? For those things, we don't have set standards. We do have averages per program. So I can tell you that last year, for this year's current cohort, the average GMAT was right around 640, and the average GPA was right around 3.4. Now, that certainly means there were some higher, some lower, but just to give people an understanding of, there is no official cutoff. We'll talk a little bit more about the review process at the end, what we're looking for, but I just want to make sure we covered that so people know we're not, cutting people off at a certain level.
Sure. We also have a document online that is for the current student profile statistics for each of the programs.
Right.
So they can access that.
Understand the percentage of women. They can understand, the GMAT averages, GPA averages, size of the cohort, things like that.
Yep. Online.
Absolutely. So I sort of took us off track there a little bit, talking about TOEFL, how we do require a score of a minimum of 93. Let's talk about the other tests that we will accept.
Sure. Well, and there's also on the TOEFL, you also have to meet subcategories as well. And that's on our website too.
Gotcha.
Specifically spelled out what the minimums are in addition to that. There's PTE, and which is not as common of a test that we get. And also the IELTS as well that we accept.
Are there minimum scores for those?
There are, and those are listed. I mean, we can list them off, but
sure. Those are all lots of times.
Those are our application requirements. You'll find those.
Excellent. All right, now let's move over here and talk about domestic applicants for a moment. We talked a little bit about those transcripts.
Sure.
So let's make sure we kind of dig back into that and kind of cover that again.
So the domestic applicants, it is sometimes a misunderstanding that the student record, maybe from a college or academic institution, that they can just take their grades from their student record and upload that into the online application. And Actually, it must be an official transcript that is certified by the registrar that is scanned and uploaded into the online application.
Okay.
Also, it will take off any ID number
Sure.
that's on there.
Personal information.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next.
So basically, we just need your name, but any kind of
Identity
ID number,
Yeah.
black that out.
Sure.
If you would.
Everyone include their social security number, no PIN codes or blood types required.
That's the main
Right.
issue. Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly with that.
Excellent. So just to recap there, let's just make sure that as you submit any sort of documentation, to make sure that any of the personal information outside of your name is not viewable just for privacy issues, right?
Correct.
Excellent. All right. Now, Shaloy, a few minutes ago, you had mentioned the Cure video. And this is a new thing for us this year, and I think there's some concern out there in the application community about what these are, what they're all about. So I think on the website it says like the Cure video interview. People confuse, well, I'm doing an interview, but it's a video interview, and that's not really our fault, right? That's just the way that Cure refers to them. That's not necessarily how we're using them. So, to walk you through the process of what Cure is, after your application has been completed, and it's just before or after the recommendation.
Once you hit submit.
Once you hit submit.
Yeah.
So once you hit submit, which again, we may not receive it due to your recommender status or having received payment for that, which by the way, let's cover what is the cost for an application.
$75 for international and $60 for domestic.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we kind of got that in. I forgot to ask that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But once you hit submit on that application, you're going to be sent an email from the Cure folks to say, hey, Purdue is ready to have you come in and do your interview. Now, the subtitle here is "Don't Freak Out," right? We're using these videos in a way to really kind of just understand people better. Oftentimes, because our admission committee is a committee, and you're just being interviewed by one person, our admission committee wants to get a feel for how people relate, what their communication skills are like, what their stories are like, how they view the world, how they view leadership, things like that. So those are some of the questions that you'll be asked. So the Cure process, you'll be asked 5 questions, and they are randomized. There's a whole pool that we have selected and identified as useful for our process. So you'll be asked at random 5 questions. You'll have a moment to practice your response, and you'll have 1 minute to respond to that challenge, to that question. And now, a lot of people do go over. I've reviewed a lot of Cure videos here the last few weeks, so I'd recommend certainly maybe try to keep it simple. That's maybe a great approach there. But ultimately, again, we're using these just to get a feel for who you are, what your communication skills are like. So please don't freak out.
It was not an interview.
Right.
Yeah, the Cure video responses, just as Nick said, are just an additional tool for the admission committee to be able to get to know you. It's always a better experience to be able to talk with somebody in person. And so this is even the next best responses to be able to see face-to-face the applicants that are applying to our program.
Absolutely. It's going to give us an insight into your critical thinking skills.
Sure.
And understand really will you be a good fit for our program? Because that's our goal. Oftentimes, people want to make sure they're a good fit for us, but we also make sure we're a good fit for you. And that's maybe that sounds trite, I guess, but I think that there's truth in that. One of the great things about the Purdue MBA program specifically is that it is a smaller program. This year's cohort was 77 students, which is not large. That puts us kind of in the mid-size MBA category. So while you're at this university with 40,000 students, you're only really, with maybe a maximum of 200 or so once you kind of, intermingle with all the programs. Well, your core's only 77. So somebody said the other day, Purdue is the smallest big university they've ever been at. Somebody told me that because it feels so connected and so small. And certainly, we're very intentional as the master's department to encourage connections between our students. We have a lot of student organizations. Absolutely. We have more than 100 student organizations that students can get involved with. We have 2 social hours every week where we get students together and provide lots of food. So the Krannert 15 is a thing, I feel like, that people may want to know about. And also the way that we've designed our building here is very intentional. So right now, I'm in an office that shares 3 people. So we share our office spaces to make more community meeting spaces available, study rooms, open areas. to make those more available for our students. So we certainly try to, encourage those community sort of experiences. So now we're off track, and that's okay. But again, please don't freak out over the Kira videos. This is just another way to sort of make your application come to life. The application is your story, the interview, and Kira videos is sort of where we really understand who you are. So just be aware of that. So for our final slide today, we're going to talk about, and then what? I've hit submit, my Kira videos are done, I've paid the fee, my recommenders have both submitted their recommendation, and now I'm waiting. So just want to give an idea of what the review process is like here at Purdue. So as I mentioned earlier, we don't have specific cutoffs for GMAT or GRE or GPA. That's because we like to take a holistic look at each candidate, right? We're going to look at their academic success. We're going to look at their maybe their work experience, their career goals, and ultimately, a lot of emphasis is placed on that interview. As someone who does a lot of the interviews, that's really going to help us understand your critical thinking skills, how analytical you are, your personal skills, how well you'll be able to, fit into the Krannert community. There's a lot of emphasis and value placed on that. So all that to say, we do like to take a holistic view of people. We're not just looking for that, that 700 GMAT or whatever it may be. We do want to take a look at who you are and really understand the value that you'll be able to, contribute to our program and vice versa.
Right.
Anything you ladies want to add there?
And I would say that there's many factors that are considered during the application review process. So it's not just your test scores, but it includes your essays, your letters of recommendation, your statement of purpose. So when an applicant applies, many times I think we get asked the question, I have thus and so scores, or I only have this number of years of work experience. And like Nick said, there's many things that are considered during the review process. So I would just encourage you to apply.
Excellent. All right. Well, at this point, that sort of wraps up our presentation. So we're going to open it up for questions now. But of course, if you need more information, as Amy mentioned earlier, there's a lot of information on our website. We understand that sometimes that can be difficult to find, so certainly encourage you to reach out to us directly, either via email, you can give us a call, or if you're in West Lafayette, stop by Rawls Hall.
Yeah.
Come up the second floor where Amy shall hang out. I'm up on the third floor personally, but we're available to you. We are your resource, so please, if there are questions, reach out to us for that. You can also connect with us on Twitter and Facebook. Lots of great insight there. We're also on LinkedIn and some other platforms. So, and that's going to help you ultimately connect to the Purdue community, at large. So, at this point, we're going to open up to questions. I'm going to mute the audio here for a minute, and we'll let some of those roll in, and then we'll discuss them here in a moment. So, we appreciate your time today, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Do you have questions?
Yes.
Good to
There are several. I work in a family business, so my immediate boss is my father. In this case, who should I select as my recommender?
If they have had relations
Well, you can answer
with,
that. That's maybe the question.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, basically it can be someone that they are in working relationship with, so suppliers or individuals that they work on a consistent basis with.
Okay. Perfect.
They can actually request.
I saw online.
It's hard.
I saw online that 3.0 GPA or higher than the application fee is waived.
There's other factors. If it's domestic, can you tell?
Diana
Harder.
There are
Depends on what program, and
it's only for MBAs, and they have to have a certain GPA, GMAT score. So what falls into that?
What is preferred dress code for the Kira video? Is there a separate deadline for the recommendation? Is there a way to waive the application fee waiver? So there's another question about application fee.
So we can answer all those.
Okay.
And then I don't know, do you do them online or you type them in?
No, I'll unmute it or respond to it there.
Okay.
So we can tackle this one first. and then you go to this one here, and then we'll kind of come back up here for dress code.
Yeah, for that GMAT fee waiver, I don't remember what the GMAT is, but,
This is an apathy waiver, so both
yeah,
ones are apathy.
they have to have a certain GMAT.
Okay. Well, I'll let you talk about that.
I don't remember what the requirements are, but
We have to pull it up online. Hey, maybe
it's right on our.
What kind of activities do your students participate in to collaborate with each other and other students? So,
we have all
case
kinds of
competitions, clubs,
Curtin Morgan.
get it all.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let's just start. I'll unmute it here, and we can. All right. So we've had a flood of questions come in, and that's always exciting to see. We'll sort of start tackling these one at a time. The first question that came in was asking about work experience. So for this person, their work experience happened to be in a family business. So the immediate supervisor in that situation was this person's father. So the question was, in this case, who should I select as a recommender? Because clearly, we want to see someone who can talk about your work experience. So, Shirley, you had mentioned something interesting about that.
Sure, that's actually a really good question. We get that from time to time. I know that makes it more of a challenge, but usually it's someone that can evaluate your work performance over a sustained period of time. So if you're in business relations with other companies or other suppliers or individuals that you have direct contact with, you could potentially ask someone like that.
And oftentimes we see people, from the academic environment be a recommender as well. So I don't know how far you are outside of your
work experience, internship.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could approach a professor, if you've recently completed an academic program. So it doesn't necessarily have to be work experience, but I think you're on the right track, understanding that your father may not be.
Nobody.
Probably a little biased.
Right. No one in relation to you.
Excellent. All right. Well, our next question here was about the weekend MBA program. And asked if this is the best place to discuss that. Probably best to send us an email.
Right.
So go ahead and send an email to KrannertMasters@Purdue.edu, and we'll certainly be able to answer any questions that you have, and probably put you in touch with your recruiter for that program. So you'll definitely be speaking with an expert there. We had a couple of questions come in about application fee waivers. So we want to talk about that. Someone said they saw online if you have a 3.0 GPA, then your application fee is waived. So that's one of the many factors that go into waiving that app fee.
And that's only available for domestic students.
Right.
And there's certain criteria that you do have to meet that is listed as soon as you pull up our website.
Sure.
And if you still don't understand, again, contact us.
Generally, that's not an option of the OJ you mentioned for specific criteria for domestic.
Again, those high achieving students, 3.0 GPA, and other factors. So you can check out what those are, and again, send us an email if you have questions.
As a general rule, we typically don't waive that.
Right. Most people, will pay that.
Yeah.
There's a question here about preferred dress code for the cure video.
Great
now,
question. Yeah.
That is, and I think that, we certainly don't want to see you in your pajamas.
And actually, people dress all different types of ways, but honestly,
we have seen people in suit and tie.
We have. I like it.
I think that's pretty routine.
Right.
Because we're looking for your professionalism, and I realize
that's what for it is what I would say.
We want to make sure that you look prepared for this process.
Yeah.
So, comb your hair, put on a nice shirt at least.
Yeah.
And I think there's another thing for me as far as secure videos go. Make sure we can hear you.
Yeah.
There are some students that feel like where I get the video and you're in a sidewalk cafe or something.
Yeah. Find a quiet.
Car horns and whatever going on, babies crying.
Right. No one walking behind you.
Right.
That's the response.
Right.
Yeah. That's actually.
So that's a great question. I think with the cure video, again, it's meant to be an informal thing, but we certainly want to make sure that you look the part at least. Another question here about if there's a separate deadline for letters of recommendation.
No, actually, however, just please keep in mind that your application is not going to be considered complete for review, even if you have provided, and if you've provided all additional required documents, it's not going to be reviewed with that recommendation. So
and that's still the same deadline as what I'm hearing?
We don't even receive your application.
Right. Good question, though. All right. We had another question here, another great question about what kind of activities students participate in to collaborate with each other and other Purdue students. And when we read this, I think Shaloy said, well, of all of them, there's so many different things. We have case competitions that are, we'll go to other universities will come here for those. Lots of case competitions, different student organizations. Like I said, we have more than 100.
Multiple clubs. And you're even allowed to join any other Purdue organization, not just...
Right, not just within Krannert. So that number is astronomical. I think even more than 800 student clubs university-wide. Oh, it's more than 1,000, I'm being told. So lots of opportunities there. Also, we talk about collaboration. I think that collaboration and innovation are two buzzwords used extensively within higher education. As I mentioned earlier, I think that our Purdue Foundry, our research and discovery parks, that separates us in a way that's very unique. So one of the talking points that I like to mention is that Purdue is probably the best campus in the country for new startups. Technically speaking, we're the number 3 university in the country. We trail the University of California, which has something like 11 campuses. We trail the University of Texas, which I think is about 8 campuses strong. And then the lowly old Purdue with our one primary campus here. And we're number 3. We launched 26 new startups last year. And we've launched 50 in the last 3 years. So what we've seen, absolutely.
Leap year with a startup, and that basically puts out and they excel.
Some of our greatest success stories, people came to Purdue for an MBA, they left with an MBA and a stake in a startup. There are lots of stories that we can go into, and they're all wonderful. But it really takes initiative. I think that's the key thing here. We're not guaranteeing you a job. We're not guaranteeing you a place in the startup. We are guaranteeing you opportunities that should you want to pursue those you can go into.
Networking and connections.
Absolutely. That's a big part of what we do here. So take those skills, say, I've got a real knack for market planning. I've got a marketing plan. I've got a real knack for analytics, for finance, whatever it may be, whatever your specialty is. You can take that and certainly participate in a lot of great opportunities with other students. So let's look through here. We've had some more questions come in. We'll kind of take these in real time. I have a 3-year bachelor degree from India, from which I have a degree. But following that, I did a 1-year Master's of Commerce program. I have a transcript for that program, but not a degree. Am I still eligible?
If you have the BCom degree, and you apply with 1 year beyond that in a master's degree seeking program, yes, you could be considered for admission. And in situations like that, actually, we just honestly encourage you to apply because your documents are evaluated during the application review process, and we don't pre-screen potential applicants, so it's really best for us to have the documentation to be able to assess an applicant's the transcripts and documents.
Excellent, thanks. Our next question, can my client be a recommender? Absolutely. I think that's a great option. Someone who can accurately measure your performance within that business environment, that work experience environment. So I think that's absolutely an option for you. Question here, my GPA is out of 7. Do I need to get it converted?
That's a common question.
Common question.
Yeah, you don't need to worry about it. We already understand that a lot of international universities do not operate on the standard 4.0 that we do, so you don't need to worry about that. You take other things into consideration as to what you actually obtained in those specific courses and not the GPA, so you don't need to worry about converting. Common question.
And you can leave that field blank on your application if needed.
Okay. You mentioned that the GMAT is preferred mode of testing, so if someone submits a GRE, how do we typically compare the GRE to the GMAT?
We have a tool. A
tool, right? So we're understanding, that percentile, how gifted you are, how well you perform, so we're going to understand that, certainly. Question, do we accept evaluations from services such as WES?
We do not.
No, they can provide them in support of their application, but honestly, they're not reviewed as the mark sheets or the transcript, so it's not needed.
It looks like our final question here is about how flexible the full-time MBA program is. Is there a possibility of a minor or perhaps a dual degree? Now, my natural reaction here is no. Probably not due to the rigorous nature of the program. I mean, it is
really not if it's already established with our, the few undergrad departments here.
Sure.
for Purdue.
For our combined degrees, right?
That's a little different.
But doing an MBA and the program simultaneously.
We do not allow that.
Yeah, that not only probably not allowed, I think it would be nearly impossible due to the rigors of the program.
Right, yeah. One thing I would add to that too is that within the MBA, there's, as Nick had mentioned previously, is what we would call functional option areas where you can actually focus. We encourage applicants, if you don't know what you're interested in, you can still just apply to the MBA and then consider what you're most interested in once you're here on campus. But there are different option areas that you can kind of focus your MBA towards, say operations, finance, accounting, supply chain.
So the nice thing about those areas of emphasis, those concentration areas, is that oftentimes, when people come in from industry and they understand their skill gaps, they know, I need to know about operations, supply chain. I need to know about finance, whatever they need. But oftentimes we have people that get here and they find a passion, right? And they really want to get deeper into finance or human resources management or whatever it may be. And so understand, too, that you don't necessarily just have to specialize in one concentration area. I always tell people I come from a marketing background. And the more time I spent in the world of marketing, the more I realized how much my role and my planning was influenced and also influenced the areas of finance, which thereby influences the area of accounting. It may have, had ramifications for our supply chain, for how things operate. So coming in and specializing in one area is certainly an option, but due to the hybrid nature of business and the interconnectedness that all these functional areas have, oftentimes people will pursue more than one.
A great example of that, actually, one of our graduate assistants, Amanda, she, accounting undergrad, can decide between the MBA program and MBA, went MBA. During her second year, she added a bunch of HR classes to her, and so she really enjoyed that after being in some of the classes, and so made her even more marketable. And now she's at Lilly, but really strengthened her skill set. As here, she did her MBA, she wanted accounting, but yet in her second year, she started taking HR courses here, and really made herself more marketable doing that. So
that's a great question. We just have a couple of, and a great story, thanks for sharing. We have a couple of minutes left here, so a few last questions. Are all the clubs at Krannert open to specialized master's programs? Yes, absolutely. We have, and they're not even just necessarily, academic clubs. I mean, these are cultural clubs. These are clubs that share common interests, especially, we have those in Krannert, especially once you get outside Krannert to the more than 1,000 other. We have like a Quidditch team, is one of the different ones that I've heard of. So lots of different things from, from a variety of interests. Let's see, question here, do I separately need to apply for scholarships and fellowships, or do you automatically get considered? You do not need to especially apply for that. Every student is automatically considered. That doesn't mean that every student. I had another question up here that talks about and how generously our scholarship. My typical answer to this, and you guys can supplement with other information, is that we award those things based on the strength of application. The stronger your application, the stronger your GMAT score, the stronger your experience, the more likely you'll be to receive, some of those more generous, cash awards or graduate assistantship. Anything to add there?
And I would say there's no separate application required to be considered for scholarship or assistantship opportunities. However, we will notify you if you are the recipient of an award, and so there's really no need to, request confirmation of that. You'll be notified.
Excellent. Well, that's going to wrap up our time for today. If you have any additional questions, you have all the information here to get a hold of us. We're certainly willing to help. That's a lot of what we do around here at Teams. So please connect with us. But that will complete today's session, and we want to thank you so much for taking time to participate. So hope you're well, and
take care.